I was very glad that,
We see
I mean,
Arkansas,
I
Plymouth,
was,
Nebraska,
you know,
Plymouth,
it's objective
Yes.
to the whole thing, but
Yes.
there was a doctor complaining against an engineer.
Plays them all over.
The engineer,
So
yeah.
we're like, oh,
Yes.
you know,
The doctor
we're making
was
sales
so
taxes,
full
of
of it.
course, when they buy
So I was able to
from
nail
the
him.
concession stand.
Wow.
They-
Yeah, that
The
was
engineer
transit
really did
gas
not
tax,
do
anytime you
anything
stay in a hotel, you probably see it
No,
before.
and
If you ever
for
had
that,
a
it was
receipt
a
from hotel,
huge
and then they
subdivision.
said you'll see certain taxes
Yeah.
on
That
there.
was going in, it was had
One of
like
them that
5
we
phases,
have,
they
which is
were
very
at least
common,
three,
it's
you know,
called transit gas tax,
$500,000
occupancy
houses.
tax.
And there was just,
And,
people landed subdivision
It's
were
good.
mad about that.
You know,
Really was.
and so, but that of course is not up yet,
And
and so we're just.
they were
gonna
just
say,
trying to find
you know,
it. So this
move fast.
engineer,
Those architects are
you know,
trying to
had
crank
drawn
that as
us
fast
some
as they can,
drawings for the
engineers,
owner,
they're trying to-
and in the middle of all this city,
can't just run
this,
roughshod,
you
you
know,
have to go
developer,
find
people,
numbers.
homeowners fight. The city says, okay, it's the planning commission said, okay, can you just, you know, we want some drainage study, a little bit of a drainage study, a little bit of a traffic generation study. Even though everybody can already say we don't need one, but because everybody's complaining
South Haven
about
High
those
School
things, they
today.
did it. So all this
Yeah.
engineer did was calculate a runoff coefficient, a new runoff
keep an eye
coefficient,
on
for a
that.
very small piece, and
Yeah,
do
he's
a
got a
level of
full
service, and just a quick
Watch the
traffic
channel that
generation. I got 2
afternoon.
memos,
Sure.
and his scope was so
No, it's
small.
arguing with me, isn't it?
And this other guy was trying to say he used false data and all that, and I was like, oh, yeah.
The doctor.
So wait another 2 or 3 minutes
He
before
was
we
part of
go.
that. Jamie said he is on his way, be here in 4 or 5 minutes.
It's up to the chair if it has to start.
Not in any big hurry.
No.
And we can laugh at him like I've been laughed at. I mean, like,
Yeah, exactly.
But anyways, but and one of the things that he complained about was the rounding error. So, and it was, you know, of course, the drainage runoff coefficient, if it was 0.52, it looked like it was under the capacity of the pond, but it was, if the runoff coefficient was 0.53, it showed, even though there was like 13% freeboard, you know, so the engineer's like, whether it's 0.52 or 0.53
Yeah.
is completely insignificant, but the doctor's, the number was 0.5244350. So it should be 0.53 because you go take the 5, right, the last significant digit and go up. I was just like, oh, so I read through like 1,000 pages of planning commission meetings and
I think
everything.
we're ready.
I called Micah, I called the mathematician.
Well, here anyway.
well,
You know, I knew the answers, but I needed some, you know,
Yeah.
like,
right.
somebody, you know, give me some
Somebody
more
was holding up the
data.
meeting.
It was 120 bucks an hour.
call this meeting to order. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, be with us this evening as we do the business for the city and the good and the welfare of the community. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Item C, approval of the agenda.
I make a motion we approve it.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Item D, citizens' comments.
Any citizens' comments other than what's on the agenda?
Close this portion. Item E, approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve minutes. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Item F, this is Board of Zoning Appeals. Item F1 will be Goddard Outdoor Power sign variance request. Quick background, Goddard Outdoor Power, property located at 20410 West Kellogg Drive, wants to be considered for a sign variance to allow 5 wall signs on the front of their property. They originally requested 5 signs when applying for a sign permit in April. The request was denied due to the number of wall signs allowed in the commercial district. This led to a conversation about sign variances and the resulting application. Item F1, an analysis just to be absolutely clear, in subdivision regulations, you can use a variance to change the regulations for signs. Under the analysis that's continued for this is under state law, certain items have to be met for sign variance. That the variance requested arises from such condition which is unique to the property in question, which is not ordinarily found in the same zoning district, and is not created by an action or actions of the property owner. It's definitely not created by the property owner because it doesn't exist currently. The unique function came into question because we weren't sure exactly how to classify it as being unique, other than this type of business is requested by the suppliers as requiring signs to be visible to the public on the outside of the building. That's the only thing that becomes unique about it in terms of the zoning classification where it's located. Most other businesses, we would simply say you must conform to the subdivision regulations without there being any undue harm to the business. In this case, it is a requirement that's set by the suppliers, and it's not unique just to Goddard. This property owner and this business has in Wichita and other places as well. So that's the only way it becomes unique. But I did want to mark it in purple and put a question mark because I did want to present it before the planning commission and saying, is this considered unique enough to justify a sign variance? So it will not adversely affect the property owners. The marketing of certain brands is a requirement of suppliers. This is kind of a reiteration for number 3, the strict application of the provisions of these regulations from which variance is requested will constitute unnecessary hardship upon the property owner presented in the application. And marketing of certain brands is a requirement by the suppliers and those merchandise to the property owner, such requires maximum visibility. That the variance desired not adversely affect public health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, or general welfare, or not affect health, safety, or welfare. We did publish it in the newspaper, and we did send out letters to everyone within 200 feet as required, and there was no comments. Auxiliary items none, and approved as to form legally speaking. It is a recommendation that we approve the sign variance request with Goddard Outdoor Power, but I do have Tom of Bronze Signs, who's representing that property owner here, if you do want to ask some questions, and I do leave it up to the planning commission to make the final decision. The variance should be approved, of course. Tom, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I mean, we have different drawings that we submitted of what it would look like on the outside when we submitted the form. So right now, they just have the Goddard Outdoor Power and the main logo here. We wanted to have different sponsors there. Pass it along.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those images aren't there, Jim.
Here's just a little bit blown up version of what those little side signs look like.
I think my only question is, trying to think from everybody's perspective, is what if he gets another manufacturer, supplier, you know, that wants this, does he have to get?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, that would be.
You mean another brand that wants to
Yeah,
sign it?
that wants
Right.
signage.
And to take that a step further, what if the store next door, like O'Reilly, said, you know, they have 19 different suppliers, and they come in and say, well, we can't stay in business unless we advertise for each of these suppliers. So we're kind of opening Pandora's box, and our sign ordinance is in flux anyway.
I just remember the conversation that was had at one point about the liquor store, you know, and I'm absolutely, these are nice, laid out very well, I'm just trying to think.
Are they lit?
Yes, they are lit signs.
All 5 of them?
So which is correct, Doug brought this up, in our agenda packet, is it the 6 foot wide for the still sign or the 23 foot 11 on this?
I think these must be eventually on the two bigger signs.
Maybe an Aqua Day 23, maybe humongous signs.
Another building, but
Proportionate, that's what's on the same one there. 23 foot.
this is what the packet.
These measurements are wrong, that's correct, this is 3 by 6 foot. I just don't feel the need to do something. Yeah, because that would be.
It's got to be like
3 foot
5 by
Those
15.
2 signs would overpower.
Agenda package.
3 by 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 by 6.
It doesn't.
Page 17, I believe is what it is. Or page 11, excuse me.
No, it doesn't have the outdoor. Is that the one you're talking about? The outdoor?
Oh, no, not the outdoor.
No, the still, sorry, the still
Oh,
on the
the still.
hustler. That's 2311 by,
Yeah, they had the wrong measurements on that, that'd be humongous.
actually what's in here is correct, 6 by 3 and 3 by 2.
And aesthetically, it looks good. But from a practical standpoint, where we're at, I just have to question it. Yes. Where does this lead us?
Well, I think it's showing a bias that you could approve this based on its aesthetics, and then, if somebody does come back and wants to put 25 little signs on, you just don't approve that. And there's an obvious aesthetic difference.
Sure.
Because this is a variance, it's not,
Yeah, and
we're not setting a,
They applied for it, and it had to be passed. Well, we've got that opportunity then every time, so.
This is not uncommon. If you go to any other,
Yeah.
boards or power equipment in town, they've got multiple signs.
yeah.
And it is helpful, I think.
They know what brand.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because now I drive by that and I'm like, what does outdoor power mean?
Yeah.
Well, didn't we have this struggle with,
Yeah.
mayor?
Yeah, I'm not sure, I wasn't here. When was that?
I don't know, my memory's not best right this.
We might have, sign variances kind of come up quite a bit, as you notice. I mean, we have 2 today, and then we're gonna have another one in October. So, I mean, they do come up quite a bit. Multiple developers, we struggle with them having a marketing sign. I don't know, I wasn't here when the video came up. I'm not sure what they wanted. I'd have to-
It was the same kind of deal as they wanted multiple signs.
Multiple wall signs.
For where?
The Miracle Burger,
It's right next to the seasons.
east end of town, the machinery dealer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but at least these aren't the plastic, the platinum. These are gonna be mounted to the building, they're gonna be lit.
Yes, they're wall mounted signs.
I mean, you got the big one, the 2 smaller ones, and the smallest on the, I think it looks good.
Yeah.
I do too, and
Yeah,
I'm not
I do too.
arguing that, I'm just
Yeah.
playing devil's advocate, just,
Yeah.
So right now, the big center one is up right now, that's one that we were permit for.
I'm sorry, what?
The center one on that drawing is up right now, they got it out.
Yeah.
If I understood that correctly, I mean, this is required by his vendors?
Yeah.
Is there something else about a pole sign or just these?
Just these signs for right now, just those signs.
So where would you put a pole sign? That's the building that when the road went through in front of it, they had to shorten the doorknob.
That's true, about that one. Well, but that could be a consideration, because on a sign that's out in front, you could have the company sign up there and, nicely put the other ones underneath it, but if he doesn't have space to do that, or whatever, then that could be
That's a good point. In terms of it being unique property, given the
Yeah.
classification, could be the restrictions given proximity to the road.
yeah.
I guess I'm looking for an A or an A.
I'll make a motion to approve the sign variance request for Goddard Outdoor Power.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? See how easy that was?
That was awesome.
You're staying there and let us throw darts at you.
I'm staying there for the whole show. Tom has mentioned before, you're free to go anytime you want, where you say. Item F2, Cloverleaf Farm sign variance request. From Paul Kelsey, the developer of Cloverleaf, submitted a sign variance request in order to get a marketing sign that exceeds the maximum square footage for R2 zone classification. Sign variances must come before the planning commission for consideration. Once again, under our subdivision regulations, we can, the planning commission, approve a variance as it applies to signs. Analysis, once again, under this one, particularly for uniqueness, comes from the fact that it's marketing the commercial development right now. As it transitions into residential, where a sign request of this nature won't be seen again in the subdivision. It's not created by the property owner, as right now they just have a 16-foot square sign over there, and they want, I think, 9206. Granting of the variance will adversely affect the rights of additional property owners and residents. It won't. It's south of that development is commercial property. And we sent out letters within 200 feet of property owners, and we published it in the paper. We did have the Beacon Church call, and they asked where the sign was going to be, if it was going to be north or south of the subdivision, and when we confirmed it was north, and that it wasn't going to be, near their property, they were fine with it. I want that health, safety, and welfare. This is wrong, but they've got copied and pasted from that one. But basically it's the same thing. The hardship comes from the same thing that they were saying over at Arby Creek, which is that marketing signs are traditionally pretty large, houses available, etc. When I spoke with Paul Kelsey about the validity of signs in the 21st century, he said that they're very valid currently. And so I would take it as word, because I've never sold a subdivision. But I wanted to question how big of a sign is relevant, and honestly, most of them say the same thing, the bigger the better. So, financial, non-legal, approved as a form. It is recommendation that we approve the sign variance request for Cloverleaf Farms subdivision in a similar fashion when we approved the Arbor Creek, and that's it. If there's questions or comments on this one.
Any discussion about this?
This, is a temporary, for sales of the property.
Yeah, it's the same as any marketing signs, Arbor Creek or nature, Elk Ridge. Most of these signs are temporary, being the fact, it's you got different phases, so they probably would remove that and put up another face on it, so they'll keep up the frame, take the face down, put a new face on it, says phase 2, and then phase 3.
I have a question, it's irrelevant to this decision, but I'm just curious. At what point in time do they have to take those signs down? Can we
There's not
set a
really a limit on
stipulation?
them.
I mean, if the neighborhood's complete and the sign's still up, is that?
I would call them, assuming I was getting 10 years. No.
Okay. I'm more interested in my own neighborhood. I was just asking the question. I didn't know if it was something we would set in here that said, hey, the last lot.
No, that's a good question.
You take the sign down, or
Yeah,
if
typically
that's
it'll-
something you deal with by yourself.
I haven't dealt with it yet. I mean, I might deal with it in St. Andrews in a little bit, or Elk Ridge for that matter, because they only have 15 lots left, so I'll probably see that fill up. There's no reason to have a marketing sign of all the lots are gone. They may market the houses though, if they're still building houses and
Sure.
not all houses are filled, they may need to sign up. But no, I mean, Seasons now has transitioned, to nice,
Right.
nicer signs for entryways. In fact, I forgot the gentleman's name. Goddard Monuments over here is doing nice big stone ones for them to transition, which is going to be really nice, I think. But all of the older subdivisions that have already filled and gone, you don't see those big marketing signs anymore. Even Spring Hill doesn't have them anymore.
Right. So, just curious.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on this or motion?
I make a motion to approve the sign variance requested for Cloverleaf Farms subdivision.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Old business, there is none. New business, there is none. And then we'll move into the staff report. Rezoning the Baptist Church has sold, and the new property owners are requesting a rezoning from an R1 zoning classification to C1 Central Business District classification. This rezoning will request to be considered on October 12th before the Planning Commission. In the Central Business District, what is allowed as land uses, one of them is personal services such as physical fitness and tanning salons. What they want to do is turn that building right next to the church. So there's the church, and then some people call it the annex. I'm not sure if that's a common term, but anyway, it's the annex, which is right next to the church. They're going to turn down to pediatric speech therapy. So they want to use that for offices, basically, and speech therapy for pediatrics. We don't know what they're going to do with the church, honestly. There's a lot of questions that come up about it. I got a phone call today from one of the neighbors. They'll probably be here in October because they're curious if they're going to tear down the church, but no one really knows right now. When I spoke to them about the church, they have no idea what they'll do with it. Really, they want the annexation. They want those 2 lots that are empty, except it's got the sign on it as the Baptist church. So I don't know what they're going to do with the church right now. So,
Does it go does it go all the way up to Main?
It does.
Okay, so I wasn't sure if that lot was the empty, the field is
Yeah, so it's 3 lots. It's 3 lots. There's an empty lot, and then right below the empty lot, there's the lot with the First Baptist Church sign on it.
Right.
So they bought all 3 lots, and then if you
then
go
the
to
church.
the west, you got the church and the annex. Yeah.
Okay.
So those are 3 separate lots. So those 2 ones, the ones that are on Main Street, are already Central Business District zoned. It's just the church right now and the annexation are zoned R1. So they want to.
Okay.
And I guess it was part of the deal, and which I'm not 100% sure why that was a requirement by the Baptist Church or why that was a requirement at all. But the realtor informed everyone who was bidding on it that they have to rezone it within 180 days. So that's interesting that was a requirement, but that is why they're requesting rezoning. So
Can that church building itself stay in the R1, or if they're only gonna use the annex?
no, because they have to split the lot. It's all in one lot. So to rezone the annex, they would have to split the lot. And I wouldn't let them do that because there's not enough space for the
Yeah.
church itself to
Yeah.
be on an R1 with the lots. Like we would create a non-conformity. So we couldn't do the lots, but they asked that if they could just rezone that. I said no, there's not enough space between the 2 lots. If they split it down, to have those buildings separated. So they have to rezone the whole thing. Yeah, there's been lots of questions about it. One gentleman asked about getting a historic designation on it, and I really dissuaded him away from that because of the fact that historic designation means that there's a lot of restrictions on what you can do with the property, even though you do the tax break. Working with CEQA can be a real pain in terms of what you're allowed to do with the historic designation. But for the most part, that's all they've provided so far, and that's all I think anybody knows what they want to do with it, as far as they know, is that they just want to use it for physical therapy.
What organization is this?
I think it's a family-owned practice.
Okay.
So it's not a big, large corporation, it's just a family-owned practice.
So so I know what, like if they want to build on the front piece, but you said that's already commercial, or but if they want to, whatever they tear down the church and they want to build something there, does that come back? Will that come back
It
through?
does, yes,
Okay.
because it's rezoned, once it's rezoned commercial, even if it wasn't rezoned commercial, if they were gonna build, okay, so that's a technical, let's go back a little bit. So if it was, say, R1 and they tore the church down and they built a house, then no, because it's still R1, it's just a single family detached house. It's rezoned commercial, if they're gonna tear down the church and build a larger commercial building there, then yes, because all commercial buildings require a site plan unless it's an accessory use.
Well, in that train of thought, if we rezoned the annex, rezoned the whole lot, could they tear the church down and build a house on it?
No, not as a business
Because it's
district.
C1 then.
That's right, so they couldn't build it, excuse me, under this permitted uses, there's really no option for a house. So once you're C1 unless you came back before the planning commission to rezone it R1. But I think at that point it'd be kind of redundant to go circular that way, but I don't think anybody would buy that much space just to build a house. But we had lots of talks about condos, there was multifamily was presented, different people wanted to buy it for different reasons. And this is the one they just won out. I don't know what they ultimately paid for it. I know that originally the Baptist Church wanted $160,000 I don't know what the winning bid was, but they won out, so that's what they were hoping to do, was rezone it for pediatric speech therapy.
So how, I guess that is confusing that they said they had to have it, they're gonna rezone it.
Right.
So
and
what, I
there's-
mean, I don't think it should affect our decision, but what happens if we said no and it has to stay R1? Are they gonna,
I don't know.
I mean,
That's not our
and I don't think it
business.
should affect our decision, but.
No, certainly not. Ultimately, the decisions are up to you if you think it's relevant or not. But I'm not sure why the Baptist church or the realtor put it in there in the contract that you have to rezone in 180 days. Because ultimately, that same question came up to me, like, does that mean if you don't get a rezone, you lose the title? Like, I'm not
Right,
sure how that
yeah.
works. But that's not my business, really. I can't, there's only so much I can dive into somebody's, financial dealings. And so for the most part, I said, listen, it's not a guarantee. Rezoning does not guarantee anything. And I always mention, of course, that's non-refundable. So after they pay the fee and they submit the application, said, just to let you know, it's not my decision and it's non-refundable. So-
What's across the street to the south? Is that the block where the lawyer's office is and the?
No, there's
That's the other,
barber shop. Barber shop and the
Residence.
house.
it is residential. That's what I thought. I thought it was at least straight across from the Baptist church. But all those neighbors got notices?
Everybody within 2, yeah. So we require everybody who's submitting a variance or conditional use, excuse me, or a rezoning, they have to hire a title company to pull property ownership within 200 feet. So that makes sure that we get a full range and make sure that it's as accurate as possible. And then we send out letters, and then we also publish it in the paper. So we did get one phone call. Somebody was concerned about what would happen to the church, but ultimately I really couldn't say. I did confirm to her that once they own it, they have every right to tear it down. It's their property, right? But I don't know. They haven't mentioned tearing it down. The only thing they had interest in, as far as I could tell, at least on the front end, was annexation. I think their concern, as far from talking to them, was the code compliance for the church and bringing it up to standards, especially International Building Code standards, because it was built in 1927. So.
Maybe this is already discussed, I mean, did they talk about it, or, if they went through a lot split, could they sell the other property?
Certainly, they could sell a lot of property, but I'm not gonna let them do a lot split because it creates too much non-conformity. It's not big enough and it pushes the buildings off to the side and it depends.
But isn't the lot on Main Street, the lot that touches Main Street, isn't that big enough to split?
Well, I would have to look at it, but there's 2 lots on Main Street. One of them's with the sign on it, and then there's another one
Yeah,
more.
over
But
here.
I haven't looked at they haven't mentioned anything about those lots. It's really just an addition with the church. for the most part.
Right.
But they're separate.
They're separate lots, yes.
Yeah.
And they're zoned separately.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I missed that part.
Yeah. Those are zoned, those 2 lots that are separate, but they're included in the real estate deal,
Yes.
are zoned C1. It's
Okay.
only the church and the annex that are zoned R1. Mm-hmm.
Is there any other property at Goddard that goes back, C1 zoning that goes back to Oak Street? I mean, there's a lot back.
No, Central Business District is really just from Santa Fe to Third, just along Main Street.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Satellite.
Are we done talking about it?
They will be here in October,
Yeah, they'll be here next month.
so you're welcome to ask them all the questions they have.
Yeah.
Do we want to table this, or do we want to go ahead
Well,
and get
this is
this
just informative, right?
No,
done?
this is just FYI.
This is just-
This is just FYI, no action can be
Okay.
taken at this point,
Okay.
from my side. So, one more mention on the staff report, before planning commissioner comments, we did get, Brom did say that they're gonna submit all the necessary variance sign request forms for October. So, if they do, then you should be seeing Brom's sign request in October as well. So we would have the rezoning of the Baptist church and a sign variance request for Brom's. At this point, we go on to MJ.
Justin? Everybody's shaking their head no.
No,
Nope.
good to go.
No comments?
No, just waiting for the Browns back.
Yeah. I was in a business the other day that is gonna build a new building on Keller, off Kellogg block. And probably not at length to say who it is, but after a discussion that I probably had no right to tell them that it was gonna have to fit the aesthetics that we're looking for on Kellogg, and there's gonna be another 10 building. Yeah, so you're gonna get that one soon.
Yes, I'm sure I will. I'm trying to incorporate more policy revisions for November and December as things kind of calm down and there's less code enforcement, less building permits. I'm bringing some policy revisions for November and December, so they'll be like the detached garage. I'm going to increase the square footage and bring it before you if you guys will consider that as well. And then I'm making it more of a mandate, and I'm trying to figure out how I want to consider it to remove all 10 buildings from Goddard, or do we want to just remove all the 10 buildings from commercial strips? But I do worry about that as well, because I was looking through the subdivision regulations, and it required it said you can have a 10 building, but you have to have frontages on them. And I was thinking about long-term effects, if that's something we want to have, or do we want to just go ahead and say no 10 buildings at all and remove that as a material item? But I don't know how that would drive up the cost to create the building, and if that would be considered too anti-business, and so I wasn't sure how we want to approach that.
The church on the west end, with our recommendations, changed a lot of the exterior.
Assembly of Goddard Church.
And it changed the building dramatically.
Yes, that does. And I know when K-State came through and had the glimpse of Goddard, that was one thing they brought up was 54. Excuse me. So, yeah, I know a lot of people, when they drive down 54 and they see, steel building and tin building like that, it can really be a negative effect. Any regulation changes to the regulation right there approved by the government, so.
They're just a Kansas.
Like I said before, that's as big of a concern as the parking lots they provide. And the lack of any landscaping whatsoever too,
Yeah.
so. Somewhere in there's a happy medium.
Yeah, sorry. Next regular planning commission meeting, October 12th.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
35 minutes, 34 minutes.
That was our shortest.